All right, I'd like to call the public hearing to order. Will clerk please call the roll?
His Honor the Mayor.
Here.
Councilor McBrady. Here. Councilor DeMasi. Here. Councilor Hill.
Here.
Councilor Wilmot.
Here.
Councilor Gosick.
Here.
Councilor Testorio.
Here.
Councilor Cordino.
Here.
All present.
Thank you. The only public hearing tonight is regarding the proposed amendments to the Section 8 Rental Assistance Program Administrative Plan for the City of Oswego. This I first talked about in the middle of November. We brought it to committee. We had it passed through committee. We posted it on the city website since then, and nobody has signed up to speak. From the public, I do have our Section 8 Director for the City of Oswego, Nathan Emmons, who would like to say a few words.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, councilors. I appreciate the opportunity to stand before you this evening. Just want to say thank you for all of your support through this process. Many of you did some outreach and certainly asked a lot of great questions as we went through the process of redoing this plan. As we mentioned back when we met at the committee level, this is a fundamental transformation of our admin plan. We've doubled the size of it. Not necessarily that's always a good thing to add more paper to a document, but in this case, I think it was, as we further have defined our policies and procedures for the program. I'd like to thank the mayor as well. This all came at his request and under his leadership. We've spent many months putting this document together, and I certainly am always open for questions that you may have. Come on down to the office at any time as well. So thank you.
Thank you. As I said, nobody else has signed up to speak. Would anyone in the audience like to speak regarding the Section 8 Administrative Plan? Seeing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn the public hearing. Councilor Testorio, Councilor Cordino. Will clerk please call the roll?
Councilor Gosick.
Yes.
Councilor Testorio.
Yes.
Councilor Cordino.
Yes.
Councilor McBrady.
Yes.
Councilor DeMasi.
Yes.
Councilor Hill.
Yes.
Councilor Wilmot.
Yes.
Resolution passes 7-0.
The public hearing is adjourned, and public session starts at 7:15.
Chris, can you see what's on my hat? Because my eyes get blurry at night. I can't see good with my contacts. They look like little kids, so they might be the bears. It's a kindergarten. But I don't know where they're coming from.
All right, I'd like to open it up to public session. Nobody has signed up to speak. Would anyone in the audience like to speak? Seeing none, before we close public session, Dr. Dean Guay is here, the superintendent of the Oswego City School District, and he'd like to, I believe he has some handouts for the council, and he'd like to give some information to the Common Council on the capital budget projects that are coming up, which is coming to a public vote here next week. Dr. Guay, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Before I get started, thank you, Bill, for inviting me. This is probably my 12th or 13th presentation on the capital project across the community. It's particularly important that I have an opportunity to speak with all of you folks because you represent the constituents of our community, and the school board and I really believe that this capital project is a community project. And if the school district is one of the pillars of this community, then we have to be able to help attract families and invite others to join our community, and so I really appreciate the opportunity. Before I get into to a slideshow that I'd like to share with you tonight, we have been doing an awful lot in terms of promoting the capital project on social media, certainly on our district's website and on our Facebook page. And we've been generating a series of informational videos that have been shared across social media, and all the information that I share with you tonight is also available on the Oswego City School District website at oswego.org on the main page on the top right side under capital project information, including 12 videos that were produced. Rebecca Trevitt is here with us. She works for the PR department at City BOCES, and she works with our district and helps to promote projects and other important news across the community. Before I start, I'd like to show you our launch video, which has been shared widely across the community and is also available on our website and on social media. The Oswego City School District is a beacon of light in our community, and I would like to share how we ensure that that light never dims. To protect our facilities, we're proposing a capital project that will make significant improvements to all 7 schools with little impact in the out-of-pocket expense of taxpayers. These improvements will ensure the safety, savings, and success of our students. Our top priority is to offer safe teaching and learning environments which enable our students, staff members, and visitors to thrive inside classrooms and elsewhere on school grounds. Some learning spaces and outdoor surfaces need repair or replacement to protect the health and well-being of all who occupy our buildings at any given point in time. The life cycle of several windows, doors, boiler systems, roofs, and select other outdoor spaces are nearing the end of their usability. Several additional improvements include classroom wall restructuring, required water system updates, carbon monoxide detector system replacements, and asbestos abatement, among others. Thanks to an increase in state building aid and a larger transfer of capital reserve funds, the total out-of-pocket costs for the average homeowner in the city of Oswego will be less than $1 a year. This capital project and the improvements have been decades in the making. These improvements are investments in the future of our students. They provide equality of opportunity for every child in our district, and they make our district more competitive and attractive to those families who may choose to join us. Please remember to vote on December 18th. There are also individual videos that are on our Facebook page and our website that focus specifically on the work to improvement of teaching and learning spaces in each building specifically. So as the video indicates, we're going out on a capital project on December 18th, and as you recall, we went out in March for a similar capital project that was defeated. And there are some significant variables that have changed since March that's allowing us to go out on with this capital project again at a much reduced cost. This is a $63.1 million project of necessary work to all 7 schools, interior learning spaces and exterior learning spaces, for $1.15 a year on a $100,000 home, but we know that the average home in Oswego is worth $80,000, so the cost to most homeowners in Oswego is somewhat less than that. The district has a building condition survey, which is required by the New York State Education Department every 5 years. And that building condition survey indicates high priority items that must be improved in schools when you do a capital project like this. That building condition survey is monitored by our district's facilities committee, which is a group of board members, community members, facilities directors, superintendent, cabinet level administrators. And our main responsibility is to maintain the community assets, which are the buildings that are owned by this community. You're going to see in the slides about the schools that there are 2 significant items that must be replaced in this capital project. One is lead in water fixtures. A few years ago, there were some additional requirements to fix certain lead levels in waters in schools, and we voluntarily did some remediation on those issues. We took some fixtures off-site, and we also labeled some other fixtures. But now when you get into a capital project, you do have to do more permanent fixes on issues around lead and water. And the second one is under building and energy code requirements, and those would be permanent carbon monoxide detectors in all of our buildings. We currently have carbon monoxide detectors in all of our buildings. They run on a 10-year battery, but in a capital project, you must replace those permanently. So you'll see those 2 items in each 7 schools. At Kingsford Park and Fitzhugh Park, the conditions are similar. As you know, those schools are sister schools. They look very much alike, and they have similar problems. Kingsford Park and Fitzhugh Park are the last 2 schools in our district that need brand new roof systems. Those are pretty large ticket items. In addition to that, you see those same life system upgrades, replacement of domestic water, carbon monoxide detectors, and also the replacement of interior floor finishes. And what's really significant at Kingsford Park and Fitzhugh, and some of you folks are certainly familiar with that, those brick facades have become porous over time. And they absorb water, and that absorption creates a problem on the interior walls. So they bubble up, and the plaster gets very unappealing, and certainly not a safe learning environment for kids, and that needs to be replaced. Same issues exist at Fitzhugh Park, which brings us to Minetto. Minetto School has the same replacement of domestic water and carbon monoxide. You have replacement of some exterior wall panels. We have exterior windows. You have some exterior doors. We have all interior classroom doors and hardware. A large portion of Minetto School, Riley School, and Frederick Layton are from the 1950s, and the glass in the interior doors are certainly not up to fire code now, and those replacements have to be made. The other thing that's significant at Minetto is that there are 2 wings at Minetto that were built during the era of open classroom concept. The 1989 edition was originally open classroom, and there's a 1973 edition on the south side of the school that also was originally open classroom concept. And when that kind of instructional mode kind of faded away, we did some work within the district to create more traditional classroom spaces. And what has happened is that we have classroom walls that are not up to fire code. So in those 2 wings, on either the north and south wing of Minetto, they need to be completely taken down and reconstructed to meet current fire codes for walls, doors, glass, and hardware. Riley is our smallest ticket improvement. Riley School was built in 1955 along with Layton. It has terrazzo floors, it has tiled corridor walls, and so it's in really, really good shape. However, there's one wing, the Bunner Street wing at Layton, or at Riley School, where some of the classrooms have a pegboard wall system. They have lockers that are built into the walls that are original to 55. That's where our second graders put their coats and their backpacks and their lunches. They're rusted and rotten at the bottom. Those need to be ripped out and replaced. Oswego Middle School is a pretty big ticket item. Although it's our newest school, it's probably the least attractive school because on the exterior of the middle school, you have window systems that create a window wall. Those windows, that's a 1980 era building. Those windows have never been replaced, so the entire window walls need to be removed. Again, the water and the lead, some mechanical system replacements. The boilers at the middle school are original. There are 3 boilers originally. We're down to 1 operating boiler. Some electrical system upgrades. And again, the corridor walls in some of the classrooms at the middle school were created by banks of lockers with a glass panel at the top. Those wall systems are no longer up to fire code in New York State standards. Those have to be removed. Traditional walls have to be built without the glass and then new lockers installed. And then some exterior site reconstruction. The track and field at the Oswego Middle School is going to become the track and field event for our entire district. So the track needs to be resurfacing, and we're proposing that we add some field event space as well. Layton Elementary School, although it was built the same time as Riley Elementary School and they're very similar, there's one wing at Layton that is very different than Riley. When Layton was built, the Oswego High School was next to the Big M. And all athletic events for varsity and JV sports were originally targeted to be held at Layton, and they still are to this day. So there's an athletic wing at Layton Elementary School that is original to 1955, including locker rooms, rooms for officials, gang showers, and things that have not been touched. Additionally, because Layton sits on the main campus of our district, it shares a lot of athletic space with the Oswego High School. So a lot of the site work and athletic improvements at Layton are on the Layton ticket price. There's also a proposal to do a lobby renovation at Layton. The Oswego High School has similar problems to the other 2 schools with lead in the water as well as carbon monoxide replacement, some mechanical system upgrades, some air circulation systems, locker room reconstruction. The music suite at Oswego High School has not been touched since the building was built in 1972. So we're proposing an upgrade and facelift on music, including chorus, band, and strings, as well as the connecting corridor between the theater and those rehearsal spaces is to be renovated. There's some asbestos floor tile removal, and there's exterior campus-wide site reconstruction. When I say site work, some of that could be athletic, but much of that is infrastructure, and it would include the replacement of Buccaneer Boulevard, the complete replacement of the Liberty Street parking lot, which is sinking and separating from the retaining wall, additional parking that we're proposing being added, and a lot of infrastructure under the multi-purpose field that I'll talk about in a minute, so that we bring that whole campus-wide main campus, which is now the home of the Education Center as well, back up to standards and code. This is a picture of the athletic improvements for the Oswego High School Layton campus. You can see that at the bottom of that graphic, the large white structure is the Oswego High School. Adjacent to the Oswego High School, you see a dark green field. That's the proposed multi-purpose outside learning space or multi-purpose field. That's what is currently used for softball and soccer. The two lighter green structures that you see as the space that's currently Wilbur Field, which is being proposed to be removed in Phase 4 and replaced with two grass end-to-end practice fields. Behind Layton, which is the smaller white structure, you see a dark green space. That's the proposed baseball space, and next to that is softball. A lot of other site work that you see is listed in the site work line, connected to Layton and the high school, and that would include additional parking at the Ed Center, which is next to tennis, a reconstruction and reconfiguration of tennis to get it in the right directionality, as well as the Liberty Street parking lot, and a parking lot that would be associated with the new multi-purpose learning space. There are 4 phases for this project. 4 phases because our fiscal advisors have created a financing package that makes it affordable in the out-of-pocket expense to taxpayers. Phase 1 is June of 2020 to December of 2021, and that would include massive work at the high school, Layton, and the middle school. Phase 2 is 22 to December of 23. That would be the elementary school improvements on the 4 other elementary schools, Fitchie Park, Layton, Riley, and Minetto. Phase 3, which is 2025 to 2026, is coming back to the Oswego High School in Layton to do Phase 2 of their work, because those are big projects. And then Phase 4 is cleanup, the replacement of Buck Boulevard and some other things, so that we're not bringing a lot of heavy equipment and replacing Buckingham Boulevard before we're bringing equipment in to do a lot of building ladder systems under multi-purpose fields and that kind of work. The other reason that we have it in 4 phases is that we have bonding that's maturing and falling off, which falls into our ability to pay for this project over time. That's not how that slide is supposed to look, but you can see that those are the ticket prices on each of those portions of the project. $24.7 million at the high school, $13 million at the middle school, $12.7 million at Layton, and then it drops to $3.1 million at Minetto. Our smallest ticket, as I indicated, was Riley, $1.1 million, and the other schools. So the total is $63.1 million. Last year, and I indicated in the beginning that there are 2 significant variables that have changed since March. When we went out in March with this capital project, the proposed cost was $37.87 on a $100,000 home. 2 things have happened that dramatically impact this. The first is increased dedication by my team and the board of additional reserve funds to the capital reserve. So we use budget surplus to continue to build our reserve for capital projects. It was at $1 million in December of 2015, and now we're pushing $6 to $7 million because we knew that by building our capital reserve, we were offsetting the local share of taxpayers to try to get the out-of-pocket costs down. But the most significant variable change since March is that over the summer, our building aid formula changed with SED. And we went from 62% New York State building aid to 86%. So finally, the Oswego City School District is starting to get aid amounts that are correct. For years, we've been struggling with lower state aid because of the pilots with 9 Mile 1 and 2. And so we have been waiting for those figures to catch up with us, and now we're starting to see it. We saw it during the budget time with increased BOCES aid, and then over the summer there was an indication that we would receive significantly higher New York State building aid, and it has in fact kicked into 86%. So that's a significant reduction from what we were asking the taxpayers to support in the beginning. $1.15 on a $100,000 home. If you have an $80,000 home, that'd be 92 cents a year for 20 years. So less than $20 over 20 years to do all of this work for teaching and learning space. As indicated in the video, this graph shows how the funding will work. 75% of the $63.1 million project is paid for by state building aid. So all the things that are in this capital project that we would have to pay out of pocket if we didn't do them in a capital project will be funded under this project at a rate of 75%. You might be wondering, well, you told me it was an 86% building aid. Well, that's true, but there are some specific site work that's outside of schools that aren't funded under building aid. So we know that 75% of the 63.1 is funded. The 17% is retiring debt. We have previous bonding on other projects that's starting to mature and fall off, and we know that we can pay for 17% of this project with retiring debt. The 7% is the capital reserve that I talked about briefly before, the dedication of capital reserve from the district to offset the local share, which boils down to 0.6% is the local share, 0.6%. We indicated at 1. I skipped over the site work briefly, but I do want to talk about it. If you go back to the slide, and I don't know if I can go backwards, but yep. I want to talk about this for a minute. Because it was reported in the Pale Times just recently from our public hearing that there has been a lot of buzz about the exterior site work. And that why would we spend $63 million for all this athletic work? We don't need, a multi-purpose field. Why do we need that? Well, you know what? You've got some student athletes in this room and some Cub Scouts. Are you Cub Scouts? Yes. I don't want to insult you if you're like a Weeblo. Okay, we got a Weeblo here. They will tell you that this is necessary work. These are exterior teaching and learning spaces, not only for athletics, but for physical education. There are community walking trails. And this is not a $63.1 million sports complex. What you see on this slide is 11.33% of the total project. So the other 88% is on improving teaching and learning spaces in the 7 schools. And I would argue that these kids deserve that 11.33%. The board's not ashamed of it. I'm not ashamed of it. They deserve it. The community deserves it. And it's time to do it. Others might ask, why is it that Mexico has an artificial turf football field and Phoenix does, and Liverpool and CNS and West Jenny? Because they've been getting adequate New York State building aid, and we haven't. So now's our time. If one of those boilers at the middle school fails, and we have to repair that boiler outside of this capital project, we're going to pay 100%. If this capital project fails and we have to replace the roof at Fitzhugh Park in Kingsford, which we do have to replace, we're going to pay for that at 100%. So why wouldn't we allow New York State Building Aid to pay 75% when our New York State Building Aid has been helping to enhance Phoenix and Mexico and West Jenny and JD and FM? It's our time. Now's the time. I think I kind of got ahead of myself. Why now? You can tell I'm a little passionate about this. This is really, really important. It's important for the enhancement of our community. It's important for the enhancement of our teaching and learning spaces. Our student athletes and musicians deserve it. Our teachers deserve it. Further delays in the capital project guarantee escalating costs. Important and required elements of this project must be completed with or without the capital project, like the boilers at the middle school, the roofs, asbestos abatement, carbon monoxide, water in the pipes. We have to do it anyway, so let's do it in the capital project and let's receive 75% relief on this project. Our building aid percentage is jumped dramatically, so that makes the time correct, and we've dedicated and been building our capital reserve for 3 years, and we continue to try to offset the local share because we understand that we don't want to continue to be asking the taxpayers to support at higher and higher levels. But I would argue that 96 cents is affordable. And I ask for your support. Certainly I can't ask you to vote yes for this. I've been warned by legal. Don't ask them to vote yes. But I can tell you that I'm going to. And my kids have graduated. And I'm a graduate of Oswego High School, and many of you are. And I'm going to vote yes on this because I want it for these kids. I want it for my grandchildren. I want it for the prosperity of our community and our school district. And I'm hoping you will all support by talking to those who maybe have some confusion about the project, who may think that it's not affordable, or what's more important, who might think that our kids don't deserve it, because they do. Any questions?
Councilor DeMasi.
I just want to add a quick thing to all of this is On top of it, everything that Mayor Barlow and everyone else has done in building this community, the DRI and everything that's happened, if this doesn't happen, it's a darn shame, because I'll tell you, the purpose of all of it is to bring other people into Oswego to want to live here, not drive from Baldwinsville, Syracuse. They aren't going to bring their kids here unless we do something with these school districts and have the sports and all that back. This is huge.
It's very important.
Any other questions, comments from the council? Seeing none, Councilor Gozick?
Yeah, you're the only teacher on the council, I just want to let you know. You know, I teach in class guy, but I'm going to I went to school here. And even more importantly, in sports, and the sports are the most important thing that a lot of kids when they're growing up, is the classroom for the teacher. And I know, I don't want to no, but the schools are aged a bit, and they did, I teach in school till 1960s. And it does mean a lot. We put on new wings, new desks, new floors, the environment you're teaching it, you know, if you listen to other places, not out for the little country, the reality is it's really large, it's like you're just, and you have to ask for the county compared to some places, either in the city,
Right.
sure in Syracuse, or in the larger city. It works, right? Projects like this, especially because, inside the school learning space and modernize, is just as important for our kids are going to have an opportunity in the 21st century to be involved in the top. Again, so the company necessary, and we're doing it off since the Mayor Barlow administration of the last 3 or 4 years. This is just one more piece of the puzzle. We need to bring these people in there. We need to do a lot of investment in the community. We are the young couple who are bringing kids up. So I think we did a great job.
Thank you. I think we've worked really hard over the last 3 years. We know that the community is on the move, the county's on the move, and we think the school district is as well. We're working really hard on our graduation rate. We're trying to get rid of properties that no longer serve us. They're not useful. We sold the Ed Center, as you know. We repurposed a wing of Layton. We're trying to be smart with our money and also start building our capital reserve so that we can do this. Likely, the shovel won't go in the ground until after I'm gone. So my only stake in this game is to do it for the future of the school district and community. This isn't the DUI project. This project has been in the planning stages for 8 years. You know, and we're not going to break ground after we pass this on December 18th. Phase 1, after state ed approvals come in, won't be until June of 2020. You know, I'll be in my last months by then. But I really, really want this for the district. So, thank you.
Great. Any other questions? Councilor Tesfario.
No, I would just like to say that I have a daughter-in-law that is a school teacher in the district and a son that chose to stay here. And I've got 2 grandchildren that are going to be going through the system, and I'm very proud to support this because it's their future, and it's the future to Oswego. And like the councilor said, Councilor DeMassey said, we're doing everything to provide a better future for all the people that want to stay here, to retain, and retire. And that's what we're all about. And I appreciate the demonstration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Dr. Giwai, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Appreciate that presentation. I think it was helpful. Thank you. All right. I will close public session and call the regular meeting to order. Clerk, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and the Cub Scout Pack 885 is in the middle. Please call the roll.
His Honor the Mayor.
Here.
Councilor McBrady.
Here.
Councilor DeMassey.
Here.
Councilor Hill.
Here.
Councilor Wilmot.
Here.
Councilor Gosick.
Here.
Councilor Tesfario.
Here.
Councilor Cordino.
Here.
All present.
Thank you. I don't have anything under the mayor's report other than the first meeting. This is the last meeting of the year, the first meeting of 2019, and the reorganization meeting will be Monday, January 7th at 6 p.m. The committee meetings will start right after at 6:30. Any other councilors have anything to add? Seeing none, will clerk please call Resolution 421.
Approve minutes common council meeting held November 26, 2018.
Councilor Tesorerio, Councilor McBrearty. Any comments? Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Gosick.
Yes.
Councilor Tesorerio.
Yes.
Councilor Cordino.
Yes.
Councilor McBrearty.
Yes.
Councilor DeMassey.
Yes.
Councilor Hill.
Yes.
Councilor Wilmot.
Yes.
Resolution passes 7-0.
Clerk, please call Resolution 422.
Approve use of public space, Anthony Pauldine, owner of a commercial building located at 197 through 203 West First Street, in order to place 2 seasonal steel benches.
Councilor Hill, Councilor Gozick. Any comments? Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Gosick.
Yes.
Councilor Tesorerio.
Yes.
Councilor Cordino.
Yes.
Councilor McBrearty.
Yes.
Councilor DeMassey.
Yes.
Councilor Hill.
Yes.
Councilor Wilmot.
Yes.
Resolution passes 7-0.
Will clerk please call Resolution 423?
Accept donation of a memorial bench from Carol Kavanaugh in memory of her parents, Joseph and Carol Salazzo.
Councilor Corradino, Councilor DeMassey. Any comments? Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Gosick.
Yes.
Councilor Tesorerio.
Yes.
Councilor Cordino.
Yes.
Councilor McBrearty.
Yes.
Councilor DeMassey.
Yes.
Councilor Hill.
Yes.
Councilor Wilmot.
Yes.
Resolution passes 7-0.
Clerk, please call Resolution 424.
Accept donation of 2 rare 19th century City of Oswego council books from Mark Tesorerio and Ronald Tesorerio.
Councilor Gozick, Councilor McBrearty. Any comments? Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Gosick.
Yes.
Councilor Tesorerio.
Abstain.
Councilor Cordino.
Yes.
Councilor McBrearty.
Yes.
Councilor DeMassey.
Yes.
Councilor Hill.
Yes.
Councilor Wilmot.
Yes.
Resolution passes 601.
Will clerk please call Resolution 425?
Authorize mayor to enter into an agreement with Forte Payment Systems Incorporated to provide credit and debit payment processing in the city clerk's office.
Councilor Corradino, Councilor DeMassey. Any comments? Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Gosick.
Yes.
Councilor Tesorerio.
Abstain.
Councilor Cordino.
Yes.
Councilor McBrearty.
Yes.
Councilor DeMassey.
Yes.
Councilor Hill.
Yes.
Resolution passes 601.
Will clerk please call Resolution 426?
Approve bond... I did not call Wilmot on the last vote.
Yes.
Resolution passes 601. Resolution 425.
Will clerk please call Resolution 426?
Approve bond resolution $5.585 million to pay part of the cost of reconstruction of and construction of improvements to the East Side wastewater treatment plant and related facilities.
Councilor Tesorerio, Councilor Hill. Any comments? Will clerk please call the roll?
Councilor Gosick.
Yes.
Councilor Tesorerio.
Yes.
Councilor Cordino.
Yes.
Councilor McBrearty.
Yes.
Councilor DeMassey.
Yes.
Councilor Hill.
Yes.
Councilor Wilmot.
Yes.
Resolution passes 7-0.
Will clerk please call Resolution 427?
Approve amendments to the Section 8 Rental Assistance Program Administrative Plan.
Councilor McBrearty, Councilor Hill. This is a complete, comprehensive rewrite of our, update, I should say, of our city Section 8 HUD Administrative Housing Plan. We actually run our own HUD office here in the city of Oswego. Nathan Emmons is the director of that office. And we are making we have already made in the last 3 years some pretty significant changes to the program, but we're going to hopefully even make more after this vote tonight. Some of the changes we are making, I'll talk about some of the major points and the highlights. Talked about this rather in depth at committee, and I'll just kind of repeat myself to remind folks of exactly what we're doing. First is changing the language in the criminal history and activity paragraph. And what we're saying is previously it was if you had a felony in the last 3 years, you could not be put on our housing program and receive a voucher. We're expanding that to the last 5 years. And we actually will deny sex offenders, anyone with heroin and meth charges involved in other public housing. So if you were involved in a public housing authority or entity and you got a charge while you were there, we'll deny you our program. And we will just tighten up the language on some of we will eliminate the 5 misdemeanors in 10 years. You were not allowed to be on the program, and we eliminated that. Another major change is to the ranking system. If you remember before fall of 2017, the housing preference, there really wasn't much of a ranking system. The criteria then was residency preference was given to those applicants that live in the city. It was just preference, and we had 30 vouchers set aside for persons with a disability. In December of 2017, we wanted to make a housing program that really put a working component to our plan. And what we wanted to do is make it more of a hand-up type program rather than a handout, another free government subsidy. So what we did is we implemented a ranking that prioritized those who work, have a part-time job or a full-time job, or are going to school for a certain amount of hours a week. We actually, the first category was non-elderly disabled in the city. Number 2, non-working elderly disabled or military veterans we put in the second ranking, and that's where we established the multi-person families who live in the city of Oswego with a household member working at a minimum of 15 hours a week or going to school for at least 6 hours a week or in a vocational training program. The third ranking was multi-person who live in the city with a household member working part-time less than 15 hours. And then the fourth ranking was single healthy adults who live in the city and work 15 hours a week. And then we went down from there, multi-person, single, and then all non-residents was the last category. The change we're making tonight in this plan really isn't much deviation off of the changes we've already made, other than we are putting in language that says hire to work in the city. So if you live outside the city but you work inside the city, we will include you in on that priority placement. We have 30 reserved and dedicated to non-elderly disabled persons in the city in the P1 ranking. In the P1 ranking we include the military vets, and in the P1 ranking we are adding domestic violence victims, which I did the executive order for earlier this year. We're even adding more language and expanding that further by implementing all the VAWA language in our plan, which is the Violence Against Women Act passed by the federal government. And I should add, in the plan, not just the ranking system, but the plan as a whole, we are adding all sexual harassment language, and we define sexual harassment as discrimination. We define discrimination, and we define exactly what quid pro quo is and exactly what hostile environment is, because we had a landlord here where it was reported after our code enforcement office really cracked down on some rentals and some situations. We had a situation with a landlord who owned multiple properties here where the quid pro quo and the hostile environment allegedly is exactly what was happening. So we are being very specific in defining that language. It's implementing it as well. The other point, a couple points I'm also excited about, the minimum rent. Right now we have no minimum rent requirement because we're adding this workforce development component. What we'd like to do is put a little skin in the game for those who are not contributing to the rent at all. So you can, as the program exists now, have $600 a month rent payment that is 100% paid for by the HUD office. What we're saying is if that's the case, we'll implement this minimum rent, and you at least have to pay that minimum rent. In this case, we're proposing that amount is $50. So no matter what, anybody who is on our program will be paying at least $50 towards their rent and will not get a 100% free ride. Just an asterisk next to that, we are implementing a temporary hardship exemption, and what that is if you are paying that minimum rent and you lose your job or something crazy happens in your life, you can apply for that exemption and have time to get back on your feet before we implement that minimum rent again. We also are putting in place a system regarding the annual interim re-exam and adjustment, and what that means is right now our clients on our Section 8 plan are required annually to come into the office, and we go through their income, we go through their expenses, we go through really their the budget to their entire life and determine the level of assistance they get and how much rent they have to pay themselves and how much of a subsidy they get from our Section 8 office. And at this annual exam, if anything changes, they have to tell us right away. What we are implementing now, because we are trying to encourage people to work, go to school, or at least search for a job, and focus on raising their family, what we're saying is if you get a promotion, or if you get a second job, if you get a better job, when you come in, you have to disclose it right away, which they do now, which is required by law. But instead of immediately raising or lowering, adjusting your income based on the second job. So if you're making more money, you get that second job and you're making more money, you have more income, or you get a promotion, you're making more money. Typically, the level of rental assistance you get would drop because your income went up. Well, that, if anything, discourages people from looking for another job or doing a good job at the job they currently have and getting that promotion. So what we're saying is, rather than change the level of assistance you get right away just because you're making more money, you still have to disclose it. We'll write it down, but we will not adjust your income until your next annual examination, which we have to do by law. So I think that's a really good incentive to get people out there looking for a job, trying to get that promotion, maybe get a second job. And I think it's only fair if we're putting on a workforce development component in the rest of the plan that we offer this as well, and try to help people save a little bit of money in the meantime before that that assistance is adjusted, and spend it or just save it. The last part is the inspection program. And we are adopting, it's going to be in the HUD language, we're probably in January, although we're already past that in terms of the conditions we require to participate in our HUD program. But we are going to be able to have a software that sees what the county HUD program does, what the Fulton City HUD program does, and you can see where other units, other landlords are failing, or if they're in compliance. So, for instance, a situation we have here in the city is we adopted the city code to be relevant to our HUD standards. We enhanced the New York State minimum housing standards that we could control in our plan. So it's interesting to watch. We have a high fail rate in the city because our inspector, who we made full-time, goes in, he goes through the unit based on our criteria and fails or passes any given unit. Well, it's interesting because you see where units on our HUD program, landlords on our HUD program, they fail at a higher rate here in the city than they do in Fulton, or they do in the county, or even that they do on the county plan with units in the city. So how could that be? Why does our inspector go in and we have such a high fail rate, but the county, other municipalities around, they don't have such a high fail rate? It's probably because our criteria is a little more strict. We have a full-time code inspector, and we expect more of landlords here in the city of Oswego that are getting taxpayer money in a subsidy through taxpayer money as their payment than other communities do. So those are the major changes. I would just close and say that I appreciate the work that Justin Rudgick did when he through the Economic Development Office was running the HUD office. Late December, early January last year, we separated the two offices and brought Nathan Emmons, who has just done a great job. I appreciate everything he's done. I know that working with him and giving that program the attention it deserves by separating it, which was the right thing to do, we really have focused in and identified some areas of improvement, and I think this rewrite addresses those areas. And I would just like to thank Nate Emmons and his staff at the HUD office for all they do. It's a very busy office. I encourage the counselors to stop in once in a while, learn more, and actually just watch what's going on. Stopping in, and ever since we put in these new rankings last year, you see the clientele of the office, the people coming in and out to get assistance, start to change. And we're focusing more on helping those single mothers with kids with a part-time job who's just trying to make a go of it, rather than somebody who has no job and isn't trying to make a go of it. And that's what we wanted to see, and that's really what we're starting to see. So again, I just appreciate all his hard work and dedication. He came in fast, had to learn a lot right away. He did get to take some good training trips in Texas and Florida, but I won't mention that. And I just appreciate the good work and the leadership you've shown, Nate. Any comments from the council? Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Gosick.
Yes.
Counselor Testorio.
Yes.
Counselor Cordino.
Yes.
Counselor McBrady.
Yes.
Counselor DeMassey.
Yes.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Wilmot.
Yes.
Resolution passes 7-0.
Will clerk please call Resolution 428?
Approve transfer of funds from within the Animal Control Department to cover overtime costs for the remainder of 2018.
Counselor McBrady, Counselor Corradino. Any comments? Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Gosick.
Yes.
Counselor Testorio.
Yes.
Counselor Cordino.
Yes.
Counselor McBrady.
Yes.
Counselor DeMassey.
Yes.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Wilmot.
Yes.
Resolution passes 7-0.
Clerk, please call Resolution 429.
Approve transfer of funds from within the Animal Control Department to cover veterinary supplies.
Counselor Hill, Counselor Tesoriero. Any comments? Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Gosick.
Yes.
Counselor Testorio.
Yes.
Counselor Cordino.
Yes.
Counselor McBrady.
Yes.
Counselor DeMassey.
Yes.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Wilmot.
Yes.
Resolution passes 7-0.
Clerk, please call Resolution 430.
Waive rules of common council to present resolutions number 431 through 433 from the floor without committee consideration.
Counselor Tesoriero, Counselor Gozick. Any comments? Will clerk please call the roll.
Counselor Gosick.
Yes.
Counselor Testorio.
Yes.
Counselor Cordino.
Yes.
Counselor McBrady.
Yes.
Counselor DeMassey.
Yes.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Wilmot.
Yes.
Resolution passes 7-0.
Clerk, please call Resolution 431.
Authorize mayor to enter into a 6-year agreement with the Oswego Firefighters Association effective January 1st, 2017.
Counselor Gozick, Counselor Tesoriero. Counselor, I don't know, did you raise Tesoriero? So this is the last remaining city contract that we have to negotiate and sign. The fire union has not been operating under their last contract, I should say, expired at the end of 2016. So it's exciting to get this done. Back in 2016, you remember, we had the layoffs of 16 Oswego firemen. So to say that we were able to get to this contract and even negotiate this out, I think is really a testament to the leadership with Mr. Gerasi in the union and our fire chief, Randy Griffin. Now, when a layoff like that happens, where 16 firemen of a department are eliminated, the union has a right to go to what they call impact bargaining, and they can make demands that essentially say, look, because we have 16 less firefighters, we have to do more, we have to pick up the slack, that because we don't have the personnel, and they can make demands to be compensated for that, which this union did. And we had a hearing and had some discussion there, and a ruling never came out. In the meantime, introducing Chief Griffin to the fire department in the city of Oswego in spring of 2017, really the direction has changed. And I'd like to think the relationship between this city administration and the fire union and the fire department has changed. And it's changed for the better. So not only when we vote and sign this agreement tonight, the union has agreed to drop the impact bargaining. They dropped the impact bargaining. We are coming to negotiate a contract 2 years after laying off almost a third of the department, and we didn't use lawyers and attorneys and outside counsel to do it. That's literally how far we've come. September 2016, laying off significant amount of firemen, to fall of 2018, leaving lawyers out of it. I joined Fire Chief Griffin and the President, John Gerasi, for dinner at Canales, and that is what started the conversation. And I think there's quite a bit of trust that's built up. It really speaks volumes to Chief Griffin's leadership over there to make the relationship and repair the department after morale was, quite frankly, in the tank after the layoffs. So we've come a long way. We still have ways to go, but we get better each and every day. And I just appreciate President Gerasi's leadership with the union and being willing to look past what we went through and move forward for what's best for not only the fire department but the city of Oswego and our residents as well. So I will cruise through some of these highlights, and I think it's a fair contract for both the city, for the union, but most importantly, it closes the chapter that involved those layoffs and opens up a new chapter where we're moving forward with a good, fair contract for everybody involved. So as I said, what this contract does, it drops the impact bargaining demand from 2016. Because of retirements, since those layoffs, because of retirements, we actually were able to call back 3 firemen that were laid off in 2016. So they got laid off. In the meantime, over the next year and a half or so, 3 members of the department retired. So if they were still unemployed, so we offered them the job back. We actually had to by way of the contract, and they took the job back. So we are agreeing to reinstate their sick time that they would have earned had they never been laid off in the city. I think that's the right thing to do. It's a 6-year agreement, January 1, 2017 to December 31st, 2022. And the percentage increases are as follows. We will go retro to 2017 for a 2%. We will go retro to 2018 for a 3%. In 2019, it'll be a 3% raise. In 2020, it'll be a 0. In 2021, it'll be a 4.75, and in 2022, it'll be a 4.75. Another major part of that is we're eliminating, as we've done with every other city union, we are eliminating the health insurance waiver completely from the Oswego Fire Department. That's about a $222,500 savings right there. And unlike the other unions said, yeah, we'll eliminate what the waiver is, I should explain, is if you work for the city and you decide that you do not want to be on the city insurance because either your spouse has insurance through their job or you just don't want the insurance, you get a payout calculated based on your salary. Really what that means is in December, you can get a one-time annual check for anywhere between $6,000, $8,000, $12,000 for not taking the health insurance. When we took office, it wasn't hard to identify that area, which I don't know if it happens anywhere else around, not to this extent, as an area for savings when we negotiate these contracts. So every other bargaining unit that we've dealt with so far, they've said, yes, we'll eliminate the waiver, but we still want a stipend of some sort, either 30%, 20%. The goal was get everybody to a flat rate of $3,000 citywide. We did that. There are different variations. Some unions said 30%, 20%, or 20%. Some went straight to the $3,000. The other unions wanted to work that percentage in, but ultimately everyone will be at that $3,000 stipend. The fire union, however, agreed to go rate to 0 without the stipend, and that is why if you go back up to those percentage points, it's really reflected in there with those 4.75%. We changed, another highlight is we dropped the pace in which they earn vacation time as fast. So as it exists, what we identified is the amount of overtime usually correlates to sick time, vacation time, etc. So what we said is that was an area we wanted to focus on to try to limit how quick they can earn vacation time. And in turn, we'll probably see those overtime numbers come down a bit. Previously, it was 1 to 2 years, you had 5 days of vacation. 2 to 5 years, 7.5 days. 5 to 18 years, 10 days. 18 to retirement year, 12.5. And then in the retirement final year, 14 days. Under this agreement, it'll be 1 to 2 years, 4 days. 2 to 5 years, 5 days. 5 to 18 years, 8 days. 18 to retire, 10 days. In retirement, you get 12 days. Another highlight is agreeing to new hires having 3 years to earn their paramedic certification, and they have to sign an agreement to pass and work for OFD, for 3 additional years, or they repay their training expenses. On the other end of that, if they do not complete or pass the paramedic certification within 3 years, we can fire them without recourse. And then the last part is the assistant fire chief will be removed from the firefighters union and go to the management union. So that's some of the highlights. There are some other minor changes in there, but I think they were worth highlighting. And again, I think it's a very fair contract. I think it's comparable to contracts we've passed with other city unions, but I think the important part is to highlight literally how far we've come from August, September of 2016 until now. And again, everything about the department has changed. They're training now more than ever. They have a more diverse skill set now than they have because of the training. Overtime, in 2014, overtime was a subject that was in the paper all the time. It was $327,000 a year. So far this year, we're at $189,000. So every aspect of the department is improving. Morale, I think, is improving. And I just want to say I think that is really, again, I appreciate all the support, the cooperation from all the guys over at the Oswego Fire Department. Quite frankly, Chief Griffin could have walked in the door in spring of 2017 and they could have said, we don't like you, we don't like Barlow, we don't like anybody, and they didn't have to embrace him with open arms and follow his lead like they did. But they didn't do that. They did the exact opposite and said, let's look forward and let's move this department forward. The past is the past, and we'll make the best of it. And I just appreciate that from Mr. Gerasi and every single firefighter over there. And I really would like to give them a round of applause for the good work that they do. And the Fire Chief Randy Griffin. I don't think I need to go on and on because I think he demonstrates his knowledge, professionalism, and leadership every day. But he's taken this department to new places, and I think the level of professionalism he's brought to the department is remarkable. It's very impressive. We would not be where we are now with the fire department without his leadership. We're lucky to have him, not only within the fire department, but the Oswego Police Department, the fire department, communications better than it's ever been. He's brought skill sets to that department as well. DPW, police, and fire. Getting along, communicating better than ever, preparing for emergencies in ways we've never prepared for emergencies in the city before. And it's just extremely comforting to me to know that the department is in good hands. He's a good leader. He's grooming the next generation of fire chiefs over in that department, and I think as long as he stays with us, the Oswego Fire Department's future is bright. And I'd like to personally, Chief, thank you for everything you've done to help us get from where we were. Layoffs to negotiating a contract over wine. Well, I had wine. I don't think he had wine, but wine and pasta at Canali. So it's just really remarkable. That never happens. Usually you can look in other places like Watertown and Fulton, and they're still fighting about issues that they had before we had our issues, and it's expensive. It's frustrating. It's not good for the community. It's not good for morale at the department. It's not good for anybody, and we got through it. And got by it, and I think we have a reason to celebrate on the new relationship and this new contract. So, Chief, personally, thank you, and on behalf of the city, thank you for everything you've done in this last year, and we should give him a round. So with that, when we have these promotion ceremonies for the police department and fire department, I'll just say what I always say, and that's there's a lot of privileges that come with being the mayor, but being the face of city government and representing the fine folks in the police department, in the fire department, and our first responders is one of the top honors and privileges I have as mayor. And I don't take that for granted ever. So thank you, and I thank them for everything they do for our community on a daily basis. Any of the councilors have anything to add? Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Gosick.
Yes.
Councilor Testorio.
Yes.
Councilor Cordino.
Yes.
Councilor McBrady.
Yes.
Councilor DeMassey.
Yes.
Councilor Hill.
Yes.
Councilor Wilmot.
Yes.
Resolution passes 7-0.
Clerk, please call Resolution 432.
Approve transfer of funds from the general fund contingent account to the municipal buildings contracted services account to pay the cost of removing chemical waste from the Flexo wire site at 68 West 1st Street.
Councilor McBrady, Councilor Hill. Any comments? Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Gosick.
Yes.
Counselor Testorio.
Yes.
Counselor Cordino.
Yes.
Counselor McBrady.
Yes.
Counselor DeMassey.
Yes.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Wilmot.
Yes.
Resolution passes 7-0.
Clerk, please call Resolution 433.
Approve sale of salt sand mixture at the Department of Public Works.
Counselor Cordino, Counselor Gozick. Any comments? Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Gosick.
Yes.
Counselor Testorio.
Yes.
Counselor Cordino.
Yes.
Counselor McBrady.
Yes.
Counselor DeMassey.
Yes.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Wilmot.
Yes.
Resolution passes 7-0.
Any other comments to come before the council? Counselor Cordino?
Thank you, Mayor. As you mentioned, this is the last council meeting for the year 2018, and I just wanted to take a couple minutes to pass along some thanks and some recognition. 2018, I think, as the mayor mentioned in some of his remarks tonight, was, I believe, a pretty good year, and it certainly was a team effort. The 7 councilors, the mayor, department heads working all together, you might say we're all in the same boat, rowing in the same direction. So I'd like to thank the council for all their hard work. I know we had 5 new councilors this year, and they all stepped up to the plate and learned the job very quickly. And that certainly made all of our jobs easier when everybody was rowing in the same direction and pulling their own weight. I would like to also thank and commend Councilor Hill. As Vice President, you certainly did more than your share. I know we've joked in the past that if you look up the definition or the job responsibility of a Vice President of the Council, you won't see much. I think it's one sentence. And you certainly went above and beyond the definition in the charter, and I appreciate all the hard work you did, and I know the mayor does as well. To the department heads, to the city workers, remember, the plows, the streets don't get plowed. There's a fire. We need a fireman to show up. If you want a marriage license or a dog license, you have to go to the city clerk. None of these jobs and responsibilities get done without a city employee doing them. And I think 2018, again, was a banner year for our hardworking employees. The department heads who oversee the workers, I think they did an outstanding job not only in managing their own departments, but this year, as we all know, during the budget talks, this was the first in many, many years where we had a tax decrease, and it was a true tax decrease because we did not use any of the general fund. So kudos to the department heads who worked with Mayor Barlow to craft a budget that was a realistic budget and gave it to the council to work with. And as we went through it with a fine-tooth comb, there wasn't much that we could do with it, but we were able to take a few dollars out of that and bring it down a little bit percentage-wise. So again, thank you to the department heads. One person who doesn't get enough credit, I think, is Mayor Barlow. He mentioned, and I wrote this down because you were talking about the chief a few minutes ago, fire chief, and you said we wouldn't be where we are today without his leadership and his vision. And I think the same thing can be said about you as well. I've worked with you now for 3 years, and I have to admit, I wasn't sure about working with a 24-year-old guy. But you proved my initial opinions totally wrong. And again, without your vision and your leadership, we would not be here in the year 2018, in December of 2018. We wouldn't be in the position we are now, with a tax decrease coming up in 2019, with a streamlined fire department, as you mentioned, a cohesive police department, and other city employees working all together. DPW as well, the incredible job that the DPW commissioner has done to bring that department up to snuff. And I know that you had a hand in that as well. So again, I think you have a lot to be proud of in your 3 years so far, and you're not done yet. I know that. You got another year at least to go. And one personal thanks I'd like to point out, these meetings, Common Council meetings and committee meetings, sometimes they can be a little dry and not very entertaining. And I always appreciate it when some of the regulars that we have in our committee meetings who attend regularly, I'd like to thank them as well. Because without their participation, it would be even more dry and boring. So with that said, again, thanks to everybody for a great 2018.
Thank you, Counselor. I appreciate the kind words and all the support that you and the Common Council give to the administration week in and week out. Any other comments?
I think you blushed.
A little bit. Seeing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Counselor Tesorerio, Counselor McBrearty. Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Gosick.
Yes.
Counselor Tesorerio.
Yes.
Counselor Cordino.
Yes.
Counselor McBrearty.
Yes.
Counselor DeMassey.
Yes.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Wilmot.
Yes.
Resolution passes 7-0.
Meeting is adjourned.